So there's definitely a couple of things that I want to talk about within this video. Obviously Ymir and the place that she currently resides in, Zeke, Eren, the Founding Titan, time travel. I mean, there's a lot of different things. I think a good place to start off is the Founding Titan and Ymir specifically. As of the most recent events, Ymir has become such an influential figure. She's become a lot more prominent within the story, and the fact that we're finally getting to see her and interact with her is a whole new element. It's that final piece of mystical element within Attack on Titan to completely conclude the story. However, with the introduction to Ymir and this place and the interaction between Zeke and Eren, it has raised a lot of suspicion, especially with the time travel. I guess we can't really talk about Ymir and the place that she's in without also mentioning the possibility of time traveling. To put simply, Ymir is obviously where everything started. She's the person that made the deal with these quote-unquote devils, that was granted these abilities to turn into titans. And once everything came crashing down, she was split. What connects every single Titan shifter over so many generations, so many thousands of years, is Ymir herself, the paths, all leading back to this one specific point, the coordinate. The thing with this place is that it is completely above time. It's not restricted by it, which is something we didn't specifically know about the place, but we did know about the paths. And when you dive into that a little bit more, in some way, shape or form, I guess it is kind of time travel, especially if you could send memories from someone 2,000 years in the past to someone 2,000 years in the future, that would become a Titan shifter. It kind of leads back to the title of the first chapter, To You 2,000 Years Later, with Eren waking up underneath a tree. Coincidentally, the tree itself probably has a lot more of a symbolic meaning than we think, considering the paths themselves and where they lead into has a lot of similarities to some sort of tree-like aspect. I don't know if it would be the world tree or whatever you want to call it, but it branches out like that. The idea that Ymir could have potentially channeled so far into the future to potentially lead him down this path is always a possibility, but at some point Ymir would have to drop off. She would become a slave to royal blood, and she would have to answer and conform to people that have this royal blood. When you think about it like that, not only could she connect to Eren, but she could connect to potentially multiple different characters, or just like other Titan shifters connecting to future Titan shifters that don't even exist yet, like Eren Kruger, for example. Seeing these images of Armin and Mikasa, that easily could have been Kruger connecting to Eren before he even existed. In that sense, are we still even on the same timeline? If you think about these things connecting to stuff that hasn't already happened yet, are we time traveling into different timelines, or what are we? How does that entirely work? I think there's a lot of concealed ideas surrounding it, to be completely honest. Not just the idea of Eren and Zeke potentially time traveling themselves and jumping into different timelines, but the paths specifically. There's a lot of mystical elements that can 100% come into play. We're slowly running out of time to explore these opportunities, especially big ones. If there is some sort of grand scheme to all of this, if time travel is even a prevalent thing. In the back of my mind, I don't think Ymir is going to outlive all of this, but instead I think she's going to be replaced. It's hard to put my finger on why or how that would even be a possibility, but the place that she is in, the things that she can do, the abilities that she has is far more greater than we ever imagined. To create titans, to gift people titan abilities, to change the structure of the human anatomy, to change the bloodline that is Eldians, is such a complex and mystical thing that far precedes what we could ever even imagine. There is a lot more here that is more closer to a god being able to potentially create life or bestow people with these abilities, take it away. Is there some sort of possibility that Eren could take her place? The reason why the biggest situation right now is that she's restricted to royal blood. Could she somehow bestow this onto Eren? Could Eren take her place and not leave this area that she's surrounded by? I think an ending like that, if obviously written into that direction, would be done really well. Technically, Eren does die. He doesn't live within the main timeline of the story. He's no longer prevalent, but he still exists. Funny enough, this place that we're in at the moment, with Zeke and Ymir and Eren, is also the place that Titan shifters go when they die. We've seen it with Grisha, and we've seen it with the other Ymir. This is a place they call Freedom, where Titan shifters go to die. I wouldn't be surprised if Eren would be the last person to reside in here, someone that could potentially cut off all the paths specifically. This massive beam of light, or whatever it is that we see, that is known as the coordinate, the paths, that are all joined into one singular location, if we cut that off, do the Titans no longer exist? But the only way that we can realistically do that is if Ymir does it herself, but she's a slave to royal blood, so does someone else have to take her place? And considering Eren is not of royal blood, he would never be a slave. He would technically be free in a place that is known as Freedom to many other Titan shifters. The ripple effect for this could be massive. The idea of potentially taking away the Titan shifting ability, as much as it kind of seems unorthodox to do, could also be a possibility. Taking away Arm and Annie, not actually killing them, but just the ability itself. If Ymir can create and bestow people of Titan shifting abilities, if we can change the bloodline to stop Eldians from continuing to exist, surely we can take stuff away. The massive confliction comes in whether or not time travel is even necessary, or is it a necessity? Is this only possible because of the different instances of time travel within the story? Is what we're going through right now a jump into time travel or writing a new timeline? Within time travel itself, there's a lot of different contradictions. Whatever method of time travel that you decide to kind of use for this story, or the idea of it within Attack on Titan, usually leads to the answer of creating some sort of new timeline. Something taking place on a singular timeline seems almost impossible, and in the writing aspect of things seems even more difficult to actually complete without creating massive holes within your story. Whether if you time travel back in time and create a new time because you do something, when you time travel, you instantly create a new timeline. It kind of goes down to the grandfather paradox, I believe is what they call it, the time traveling method for it. It's like if you go back on a singular timeline to kill your grandfather, your father obviously wouldn't be born, meaning that you wouldn't be born, meaning that you wouldn't time travel to go back and kill your grandfather, meaning that your grandfather would still be alive, meaning that your father would be alive, meaning that you would be born, meaning that you would time travel and go back and kill your grandfather. It's a loop. There's no real way to break that unless you go back in time and kill your grandfather, and your actions create new consequences and a new timeline from there, and somehow within that new timeline you're born. Like I said, there's a lot of contradictions, and even that is not even a concrete answer for the idea. There's a lot of different variations for it. I think Eren replacing Ymir would be a very interesting thing. I don't know how we would get to that point, but I think it would resolve a lot of different issues. I think Ymir has a lot more power than we realistically know. I think the idea of time travel could well and truly be a prevalent thing, but maybe to not the grand scheme that we're thinking about. I don't think we realistically have enough time to delve into that much. We'd have to build up so much important stuff to make it work properly, for it to make sense, so no contradictions are built within the story. So do we just stick with the idea of Ymir being the basis of everything? Do we explore her origins a little bit more? Do we explore the devils a little bit more? The closer we get to the ending of the story, the more things I realize that we have to explore. But then again, do we have to explore a lot of these things? Do we ever have to find out the true origin of Titans and where they came from, or how they came into existence, or what these quote-unquote devils are? I know a lot of people would love to see it, but it's not always a thing that has to be shown. We don't always have to show the origin of vampires. Tokyo Ghoul done something similar. We didn't see the origin of ghouls. But then again, Attack on Titan has hinted at it for quite a bit of time. I think as of now, we're going to spend a lot of time and focus on Ymir specifically, finding out a lot more about her, maybe her past, and how this is going to affect both Eren and Zeke. I don't know how much Eren actually knows. If he's very knowledgeable about this whole situation to any extent, he could easily overpower Zeke in the form of a mentality-based battle. Who can manipulate who the best? And that's kind of what it's coming down to at the moment. With these quote-unquote memories potentially being warped and obscured by Eren's hands to lower Zeke's guard potentially, we could be moving in that direction where Eren gains all the power that he could ever desire. His biggest threat is Zeke, but I do think he could do a really big solid for Ymir and set her free. If we're going with the slave mentality and setting people free and Eren's freedom of ideology that he has, it would make a lot of sense. But then again, how we get to that point, I'm not entirely sure. How much Isayama wants to explore and expand upon in such little time that he has, I'm not entirely sure. I think there's a lot of good things here to build upon though, and I'm interested to hear what a lot of you think. Some ideas that you may have that could be implemented into the story with such little time to go. Hopefully our questions will get some answers soon. We can only pray at this point that Isayama is going to be easy and kind with the cliffhangers that he has been doing recently. So with that being said, that is basically it. Like I said, let me know what you guys think about Ymir, time travel, the origin of Titans. Do we need it? Do we not? What do you think should be implemented within the story as of now, with so much little time to go? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I'm actually going to end the video off here. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.